My middle-aged women are throwing birds at me now and asking me to buy them a plot. I'll buy you a plot and I'll put you in it. So you're sitting there looking at, what does it mean to get a reading style that's episodic and that's scaffolded? When you look at this generation, some of the people in this room are under 30, lucky you. So your IQ is on average 20 points higher than the boomers. You're the smartest generation in history. You're the first generation to grow up in a Roe v. Wade environment, so you were wanted. That makes you smarter. You're the first generation to grow up where lead wasn't in the paint. So when you chewed on your fridge, you were not chewing lead. You're also, more importantly, the first generation to grow up that had no lead in the gas. So in your entire lives, you were not breathing leaded air. So we've got a shift of stuff. At Kent State University, I MRI the brains of 1,000 kids because we wanted to know what was going on. I mean, there's been 3 times in history where the brain has materially mapped itself differently. Once when we moved from hunting-gathering societies into farming societies with the Tigris and Euphrates. My undergrad was spent doing molds of skulls buried in that region and before that time. And that's when the brain went through a major shift. Happened again in the Industrial Revolution when we had to map our brains differently to handle urbanization. And then it's happened in the last 30 years where everybody's brain has more sulci, more gyri, and it runs faster. So we've got a very smart generation with little Ferraris for brains. Librarians and teachers and people who are working within the knowledge space need to teach people how to drive a brain at 180 miles an hour. It's one thing to have a Ferrari, it's quite another thing to go around a curb and not go flying off the road. So how do we deal with a very, very smart generation and make sure that they're adapting technology well and making credulous choices, understanding authority, and that beyond brand, but understanding how to understand if something's authoritative. So if I told you that every morning I inject lizard spit into my gut, it's because Gila monsters only eat 4 times a year, so they must be able to control their insulin levels very well. Polar bears, not polar bears, brown bears hibernate all winter for like 4 or 5 months, unless they're pregnant. Pregnant bears don't hibernate. So why can they control their insulin as animals? So we collect the spit off of the Gila monsters, process it, pull the triglyceride out of it, and I inject it into my gut every morning for the last 2 years as part of a medical trial, because I like to talk to people who are smart. So I just joined clinical trials and interviewed them as a focus group. So it's part of the reason why you don't want to it's hard to collect bear spit, although they are trying. But men carry their weight above their hip bone, which is very dangerous. It's why we have more strokes, more heart attacks, die younger. Women carry their weight 10 to below their hip bone. That's not dangerous for you. Like, you may not like it, but the fat ass is not going to kill you. It's rougher. And so I inject the lizard spit, and it caused me to lose site-specific weight loss between my hip bone and my rib cage. So I lost the weight around here. Awesome. I'm like, this is a great drug. So I use this as an example of an information literacy task. You go online, and some of you are probably online right now. Just type in lizard spit and diabetes into Google. Now I want you to type in peach pits and cancer, and ask students, how do you tell which one's true and which one's not? I'm not lying. I can assure you the lizard pit story is true. And I do inject lizard spit every day. But the peach pit, Laetrile, is a total lie. So how do we bring up a generation of people where you can manipulate the stuff? You all know that I can buy a geotag set from Google, and I can change the search engine results based on every university in North America, right? Anybody here spend any money with Google last month? Last year? So you're not their customer. You meet the needs of your customers. Your real customers. You're not it. They're the largest advertising firm in the world, and they make $1 billion profit every 30 days. They just, they buy everything quietly. So, who's more valuable as a target audience? If you're watching television, for some of the people in the room who are my age, if you're watching a TV show and you see a bathtub that has a door on it that you don't have to lift your leg to get into the bathtub, is not, the people who are my age are laughing more because that's why that is not a show that is aimed at young people. It's CNN. The average viewer of CNN is 55. People under 30 don't get their news from CNN. They're not news addicts. They're from newspapers. They get their news from Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, which is a good thing because you can't understand satire unless you know the real news in the first place. So there's a dynamic here. I was going somewhere with this, and I just had a senior's moment. What did I start with? Oh, manipulating university. So I can charge 4 times more per click if I can guarantee it's going to a university campus, or a high school, or a college. So I buy the geotag set. So this is what we need to teach people. You type in, where was Obama born? And you know that the first 4 pages of search results, although we've been working some experiments to try and get a little better, but you type in, where was Obama born? And you have 5 racist organizations, search engine optimizing. All of the search engine results will tell you that he wasn't born in Hawaii. Because apparently, he went around and stole all the microfilm from all the libraries where the Hawaii newspapers are, and replaced it with new microfilm rolls because to show he was born in Hawaii. You betcha. So here we are looking at how do we deal with a world where we meet the needs of advertisers for revenue needs, and I can change search engine results. When I was in Baltimore during the Obama-McCain election, I had lots of librarian friends. Did 150 librarians each search engine optimizing the search engine results based on tools you can use with the U.S. Census. So when you search on the political things, when I was in Baltimore, I was in a hotel at a conference, standard, it was a Homeland Security event, and did a search, got an answer. Later in the day, I was in a black neighborhood, did the same search, got a different answer. Then I was in another neighborhood, got a different answer. Because you can change the search engine results based on the geotagging, based on the U.S. Census. So anybody have a concern about information underpinning democracy, decision making and stuff, if we fail as librarians to install correct information literacy language? For one thing, we only talk about it as information literacy amongst ourselves. There's a new word that's a little better called transliteracy that Bobby Newman's been promoting. I just gave her some money to buy 1,000 tattoos with her logo, so we're going to have stick-on tattoos, because only young librarians do the permanent ones. So she's got a great logo and got the transliteracy stuff, because librarians sit there and say, information literacy course, come and play with us, we'll show you stuff. I'm going, yes, admit you're illiterate, that's good marketing. Like, oh yeah, I got to admit I'm illiterate. Like, hey, librarians are running beauty salons, they call them ugly salons. Just admit you look like shit and we'll make you look like instead of saying, get an A, research skills for university success, whatever. So here we are looking at a world where all the books are going online in the next 2 years. Google, as you probably know, Google signed up the top 40,000 publishers in the world for Frankfurt Book Fair over the last 3 years. And they're launching Google Editions in the next 8 weeks. So Google Editions will have, I think it's 15,000 of those publishers, because I saw the trial of it last April. And so 15,000 publishers, the full front list of every book, and an algorithm that will sell all those books for 80% of the lowest price they can find on the web. You all knew that, right? You're in libraries, go watch that. Somebody is. It was supposed to come out in July, and they delayed it because they were hoping that they could relaunch Scholar, Google Books, and Editions all at the same time. That's a different package. It's a real interesting challenge to us, right? Then you've got Google Books with all that stuff in it. Prior to 1926, after 1926, you got a bunch of librarians who think they did a good job lobbying the courts with the amicus curiae brief saying, oh, this is good. They're going to give us 1 free station in every university for it. And I'm going, oh, yeah, that's great. Did you read it? That free station that the University of Buffalo is going to get does not allow any printing rates. So I don't know how many students are in this university? 20, 25,000? That's a longer lineup than a registration week, I think. And you can't print it. You know what that's called in marketing terms? Trojan horse. You get one campus station on there, and then you develop an institutional licensing model from Google, and then you develop a partnership with FedEx, Kinko's, and espresso machines, and say, start paying. We're going to have a sales staff, and we're going to call them librarians. Ready for this, bro? How are you going to deal with an ebook when it goes beyond text? Like now, right now we look at fiction. Now let's look at nonfiction. The younger ones in the room have never known a world where we didn't have full text online. I helped put up the first full text database in 1978 when I was in library school. And we were the beta group for the first full text service on QL Systems and on Golden Mail. And it moved on to the New York Times, and then I helped Micromedia and ProQuest build the big article databases. But you've all gone to an article level universe. None of you sit there and say, gee, I wonder what article was in front of or behind this article that was downloaded off ProQuest.scale. You don't do that. You got bound periodical stacks in the university library here, but what are the bound periodicals for? They're last copy rules for storing them. But otherwise, it's just the best place in the university for low lighting, good acoustics, and not being interrupted to go boink. Because no one's going into the bound periodical stacks anymore. It's that's true. No one goes in. No one goes into the bound periodicals because you've gone to an article level universe. Now, put all the nonfiction books online and code them. As you know, they're all coded to the chapter and paragraph level. How many of you read all your nonfiction books in your assignments or in your research or in your personal lives or in your jobs from cover to cover like an immersive fiction experience? How many of you see scholarly books? You know a scholarly book, right? After you get tenure, I've got 10 friends. That means I can do 10 chapters. And if it has roughly the same topic, we can assemble it all into one place. And then we'll publish it so I can meet my tenure requirements. But realistically, one article at a time is all the articles are worthwhile, but then they're published in print. But you want just the article on the taxonomic thing you're doing, or on the human genome, or on that operation, or whatever. So if you look at Google Scholar, and you see all the articles and all the book chapters are being integrated into a single search response, and then tiled with video and audio at the same time to support auditory and visual experience-based stuff. So when we start looking at what's a librarian going to be doing when all the information is online, what are we going to be doing?